Welcome on into our 2025 Tampa Bay Buccaneers schedule preview and prediction show. Riggs Tamburo, Ella Brasinga, Mr. Owens is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes as well. So this is going to be a fun one. As you guys know, we are kind of Baker Mayfield fans around here, but no one is necessarily a Tampa Bay Bucks fan per se. So this should be a fun one. Very honest opinions, and obviously a year where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are kind of looking to go on a deep run here and get it done. But that said, Ella, let's take a very quick look here at week number 1 at the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix Jr. and company, he's taken the reins. Kirk Cousins is out in Atlanta. They got one of the best running backs in Bijan Robinson in football. This is a really tough way to kick your season off on the road. Do you think Baker Mayfield and the guys can get this one done?
I honestly think they can. Penix is stepping into a massive role, playing just his second year with the Falcons, and he has big shoes to fill. So him being the new quarterback can definitely affect how the entire team moves during the season. And I think the Buccaneers are coming into this game as a revenge game, and they're looking to win after they lost last year to them. And if they have a very solid defense, unlike last season, and they keep pressure on Penix, they can definitely pull out a win for this game. It's definitely a new era for the Falcons with a new quarterback. But again, I think it's a revenge tour for the Buccaneers, and this game is definitely going to set the tone for their season. So whoever wins this game, I think, is going to walk away feeling like they're ready to make a very big push for this season.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. And I love that you mentioned the defense for Tampa Bay, because it kind of gives me these Bengal feelings where it's like you can do great offensively, and when you're giving up these 30-plus point games all the time, you just can't expect to win. I mean, Baker Mayfield, he's a good quarterback, but is he a great quarterback? Is he a guy who's young and in his prime and is going to be able to just work the entire field? Not necessarily. So they do need some help from the defense. I agree with you. It was a pretty good draft for them, good offseason, potentially still one more guy to be added to this defense. We've seen a lot of moves going down in the NFL over the past 72 hours. So we'll see if they make any more moves, but very tough one to call here. Me personally, I'm going to go this is really hard to fade Atlanta at home, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Tampa Bay, and I'm going to say score prediction here. I'm going to say 27-23, and the defense that you and I just kind of gave some crap to, I think they step up in this one big. They stop Michael Penix on the final drive, 27-23 Tampa Bay. Do you have a score prediction for me in this one?
I think it's going to be a little higher. I think that the Bucs are really just getting pumped for this first game, and being on the road. So I would say 43-27.
Ooh, 43-27. Well, Mr. Bryson Owens. Yeah. What you got?
I think they're just going to be very pumped up for this game. So.
Okay. Bryson, what you got, my man? We got Baker Mayfield and company heading to Atlanta to take on Michael Penix Jr. week 1.
Yeah, this is an interesting game because it is on the road in Atlanta to start the season. Now, you never love to do that as a team. It is also – there's so much mystery behind the Atlanta Falcons, specifically just behind Michael Penix Jr. They saw him for a handful of games. He looked pretty solid as a rookie last year, but you just never know what he's going to look like as the first-year full-time starter in Atlanta. So I think they're going to be some kind of week 1 – he's pretty much still a rookie jitters for Michael Penix Jr. I did really like what the Bucs did this offseason. It's hard not to love everything about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' offense. I mean, offensive line is one of the best in the league. Arguably the best wide receiver unit in the NFL. I mean, when you go Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Egbuka, the rookie, they have so many options there. They have good tight ends. Baker Mayfield's obviously a stud. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get a week 1 win in Atlanta.
All right, so a win there for the majority in Atlanta, even though the public probably very strongly disagreeing with us on this one. I know people are extremely high on this Atlanta Falcons team and believe that Michael Penix Jr., I don't want to go too far, Bryson, but there's kind of a narrative that it could be the next Jaden Daniels kind of year here. I mean, he's technically not a rookie, but first year at the full reins. Could this be some kind of comparison, or is that a bit too much?
I think it's a bit too much. They're very different players. I mean, obviously, I think one thing that people don't talk about enough when they talk about Jaden Daniels is the age. Like, obviously, they bring up the age first with guys like Penix Jr. and Bo Nix who were in college football for so long. Jaden Daniels is going to be 25 as a second-year pro, so it's not like that's too much of a difference. But Michael Penix Jr. is just a very different type of quarterback to Jaden Daniels, and I don't know if he has all of the tools around him to make his skill set work. Obviously, Drake London is a very good wide receiver. Who knows what you're going to get with Kyle Pitts? I think that Bijan Robinson is one of the best running backs in football, but I just think they don't have the roster around Michael Penix to showcase his talent like Washington was able to do last year.
Pitts might just be out of there. There's rumor that he's one of the tight ends on the trade block. Mm-hmm. Miami might be looking at him. I don't want to talk about it right now, Bryson. Thursday, you and I can talk about the whole Miami Steelers thing. I haven't coped yet. I need about 48 more hours and I'll feel better. So we'll talk then. But that said, moving on through to week number 2, we are on the road again. One of the only teams that opens the year, both games being on the road, especially with one of them being in prime time. Here you are, Monday Night Football week 2 on the road in Houston, taking on CJ Stroud and company over there. Ella, looking at this Texans team, these guys have a lot of expectations. Their wide receiver room is finally healthy. CJ Stroud's one of those guys who should be balling out. But you kind of got like an up-and-coming great quarterback in CJ Stroud, taking on a maybe only a year or two really good left of Baker Mayfield. Who gets the best of this one?
Yeah, so last season the Texans won the game against the Buccaneers with, I think it was 40 seconds left in the game, and they scored a touchdown. So that was seconds after the Bucs took the lead, and it was a very dramatic game to say the least. But I think this game brings another revenge opportunity for the Bucs as they head to their second away game, like you said, right off the bat of the season. And, the Texans stood strong after losing their kicker in that game that they won against the Bucs last season. They lost their kicker to an injury in the second half of the game, which really didn't really affect their play at all. And so the Texans showed their resilience during that game very well, and their ability to adjust to just about anything on the fly, especially with the new quarterback in last season. So, I think Tampa will be looking to redeem themselves and to prove that they can come back this season with more confidence. But, I think the Texans have the win for this game for sure.
Yeah, Bryson and Ella just mentioned a couple really important things. You got a CJ Stroud who's looking to prove it. Like I mentioned, he's got all of his weapons right now. They're at home in this one. A lot of things are kind of floating their way here. Well, obviously, the Tampa Bay defense, Ella mentioned in week 1, was very suspect last year, one of the ones that kind of concerned us as the year went on. But then at the same time, you got Baker Mayfield, who not only on the road in primetime, back-to-back games, but now, you got a really solid Texans defense here. When you and I talked last week about the Texans defense, we almost disagreed because you kind of said, hey, man, look, Riggs, they're even better than you're giving them credit for defensively. So do you see this being a big game for either quarterback? Is it a tough game for both quarterbacks? How's it shake?
I think this could be potentially a big one for CJ Stroud, kind of based off a lot of what Ella was mentioning. Obviously, CJ Stroud is looking to have a bounce-back season from last year. Not that he was bad last year, but after his rookie season, the expectations were him to be in that MVP level conversation, and it just didn't happen. He was still very good last season, underrated, I think, for the Houston Texans in a lot of ways. And now, like you're mentioning, he's still waiting for Tank Dell to come back, but he's got one of the better wide receivers in the NFL with Nico Collins. I like the additions they made in that wide receiver room to combat the loss of Stephon Diggs. While they wait for Tank Dell to come back from his injury, they still have plenty of weapons for CJ Stroud to work with. And I think the Bucs defense was underratedly, like you guys have mentioned, not great last season, especially in the passing game. They let up the 4th most passing yards in the NFL last season, which is not great. They gave up 24 passing touchdowns as well, or 27 passing touchdowns as well, which is not great. And only came away with 7 interceptions. Like, there are some teams who they give up a decent amount of touchdowns, but they're gonna combat that with also causing a lot of turnovers. The Bucs did neither of those things well. So that secondary is really scaring me, and they're going to be relying on a lot of young guys to kind of fix that this season, whereas other teams with the veteran route, which I think is the more correct way to do for a defense when you're trying to compete at a high level. So I think this has the potential to be a shootout. Now, I just mentioned the Bucs have maybe the best receiver room in the NFL, so if it comes down to shootouts, the Bucs are a pretty good team to rely on. But being at home for the Houston Texans, on the road for the Buccaneers, I think gives them the edge there. So I'm gonna have the Bucs losing week 2 to Houston.
Bucs losing week 2 to Houston, and I have to jump on the train with that one, man. I want Baker in this game, but first of all, looking at the first 2 games, I feel like it's a 1-1 split. And kind of no matter how you split it up, if they do start 2-0, it'll be a phenomenal start, Ella. Like you kind of mentioned, in the first week there, they are on a redemption little run here. They do want to prove that they're a legitimate football team. They don't want to get this narrative, well, they're in a bad division, so yeah, like they're good for their division, but they're not that good, kind of thing. They don't want that narrative, kind of hanging over their head. So there is that, but. Bryson, I keep talking about Nick Chubb. I'm going to keep talking about Nick Chubb. This run game for the Texans is legitimate, and anyone that doesn't think it's legitimate, you are incorrect. I like Tampa Bay, but I do think going back-to-back on the road, being in Houston with C.J. Stroud, all his weapons, a great run game, it just feels like too many points that the Bucs they can't catch a break. Every time they do something right, they're going to get scored on again, and every time they do something wrong, they're going to get scored on again. I think the defense gets exposed here in week number 2. Even though they made a few additions, I don't know if it's enough to stop this high-flying Texans offense. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the Texans in week 2, going 1-1 for me so far on the season. Then moving on through here to week number 3, you're finally at home, and you get a pretty relatively favorable game. Now, it is on 6 days rest, but you got Justin Fields and the New York Jets coming to town, 1:00 p.m. window here on Fox. So should not be a weather problem, should not be too much pressure in prime time, nothing like that. And you're at home for hopefully a sold-out crowd, I would assume, there in Tampa Bay. So all of that said, Ella, looking at this one here, Justin Fields, there's a big narrative here. Bryson Owens over the years has been one of the biggest critics of Justin Fields dating back to the Chicago days. He was pretty decent last year in Pittsburgh, but, not good enough to keep the job. He got pulled in Pittsburgh, and now he's the quarterback of the New York Jets, him and Aaron Rodgers doing a little flip there between teams. So in your opinion here, is this a game Tampa Bay should be concerned, or is this a pretty easy win for them here?
I think this is a pretty easy win for them, honestly. I think the change in quarterbacks, I think that's just going to mess the team up even more than last season. Their defense just does not deliver whatsoever. And even though Aaron Rodgers had one of the best stats in the last season, his team just could not deliver for him. So I think just putting a new quarterback in there is just going to flip everything even more upside down than it already is. But other than that, they just have like a lot of struggles overall as a team, in my opinion. I think that they do. Yeah. But their offense is very inconsistent. The defense just isn't it either. They have a lot of their key players just keep getting injured, and they're for sure the underdog of the NFL, but sometimes the underdog may come up on top, but for this game in particular, I don't think they will. So yeah, I don't think they have a shot for this game.
A potential blowout for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers then in week number 3. But Bryson, I got to ask you, man, because it kind of reminds me of a few teams from last year that a lot of the staff, I should say, at the Sports Forum, we were like not all in on certain teams that other people were very, very high on. And this Jets team, Ella just kind of said it, an underdog of the NFL. But if you go look around and you do your research and you listen, that's not what everybody's saying. A lot of people are saying, oh, this team sucked last year because Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields is dynamic and he played so good in Pittsburgh and they got new coaching stuff going on over there. And there's some people with hope for this New York Jets team. So help me out here. Are you with Ella? Am I just, trying to make this fun and it's not that fun, or what?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty easy win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just mentioned that the weakness for the Bucs last season on their defense was in the secondary, and how a team with a quarterback like Stroud can take advantage of that when they play the Texans. The Jets don't have that. I'm sorry. I don't know how many times we have to see Justin Fields just not be very good before people give up on him. Like every year, it's the same thing with Justin Fields, where he has a bad season. He puts out a highlight video of him in the offseason working with his receivers, and his slow motion passing, beautiful. He's the best slow motion, no pads, no defense quarterback in the NFL. In actual NFL games, the dude's not good. I don't understand why people still think there's going to be some revival of Justin Fields' career. I don't think he's going to be able to take advantage of this Tampa Bay secondary. And the Tampa Bay run defense is actually pretty good. So it's going to neutralize the one strength this Jets offense really has. And then when you're looking at the other side of the ball, the one way you kind of can talk yourself into the Jets maybe being somewhat competitive next season is if that defense can find that form from a couple of years ago where they were up in the top in sacks. The secondary was shutting everyone down. Unfortunately, they've let some of those guys in the secondary go. Like Ella mentioned, a lot of the other defensive guys that have been there for a while, aging, consistently getting hurt. Sauce Gardner is really the only guy on that defense who is still, I would say, among the best at his position. And I just mentioned how many good receivers there are. Sauce can't cover everyone. Baker's going to take advantage of some poor guy in that Jets secondary who's just not good enough to cover Chris Godwin or Emeka Egbuka. And so I think this is going to be a pretty easy win for the Buccaneers. It's back at home. It's at home for their first game of the season at home. Like you mentioned, Riggs, good weather. The Bucs I think they're going to dominate this one.
Yeah, and you said a couple names there, but the list goes on. Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, both can catch the football out of the backfield. Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan, Tez Johnson, shout out to Bo Nix, Sterling Shepard, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, Trey Palmer, Kate Otten. Do I have to keep going, folks? There is an endless array of options here for Baker Mayfield. And I think you mentioned it there with the fact of someone's going to be open. So if Baker just makes his reads and makes his throws, he should dice up this defense, especially after we just kind of talked about it. CJ Stroud the week before that might dice up his defense, and he's going to fully know I have to score points or we're not going to win football games. So all of that said here, though, I will say, guys, as a Steelers fan, as someone who watched Justin Fields a lot last season for the time he was playing, Bryson, I was one of the only people, if you recall, that when he got pulled, I was in support of it. And everyone was like, why in the world do you want to pull this guy? And I said, because he played the easiest part of the schedule. He really didn't play that well. You can win games, but he didn't play that well if you look at the stats on his stuff. And I like Justin. I'm a supporter of Justin. I do think you're a bit of a Justin hater, but you're also a Justin realist. And so I can't blame you for that. So for me, I agree with you. I think this guy is up here in people's minds. And sadly, it's even higher this offseason because of what he did in Pittsburgh. Everyone's really buying in on Justin. I saw that dig you made there on social media, but he does do that where he goes to social media with his big 6'5" frame looking all jacked, and then he goes out there and he throws 3 picks. So, it is what it is. But that said, I'm with both you guys here. I think the Jets get exposed in this one. And this could be a turnaround of what happened the week before. I'm going to go with a nice, cushy 10 to 14-point win here for Tampa Bay. I don't really think it comes down to it too much, but we'll see what happens. Then moving on through to week number 4, things are starting to get interesting here. They're kind of looking like they're still in control of this division at this point, and you shouldn't say you walk in. You invite in the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles here Sunday, September 28th, week number 4, 1:00 p.m., once again in Tampa Bay. Ella, I don't know your full take right now on Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, but is this a team that Tampa Bay can stop?
I don't think so, honestly. The Eagles are coming off of a Super Bowl win, just like you said, and they're already at the top of the NFL, and I don't think they want to drop down anymore. So they're going to be very motivated in this game as well as throughout their season. And they have a very strong roster going into this season with a very positive team culture. I think that they have one of the best team cultures and just energy throughout their teammates and everything like that. And they have a very good history of making smart decisions on the go. And they're very competitive. They maximize each and every one of their players to their full potential. They have a very stable coaching staff, and they make very good draft picks and roster moves, which sets them up for even more success. The players on the Eagles team are just very disciplined and they know what they want. So I think that this is going to be a big win for the Eagles, but it's definitely one of the toughest games on the Bucs schedule. But I think of it as like a very tough challenge for the Buccaneers to see if they can still, hang with the best in the league and if they still have a shot at, making it to the top.
Yeah, I completely see what you're saying here, but Bryson, I do have to ask you. I mean, Ella pretty much mentioned it, but I know she's going Eagles here. Is this a statement game for Baker Mayfield? Is this we're starting to find our momentum? We got the weapons to go shot for shot with these guys. The defense is going to have to step up here. Could this be one of those spots where obviously pretty much all year, I don't think people are going to fade the Eagles very much, but could this be a decent fade spot of them?
I think this is going to be one where you mentioned a statement game. It could be a statement game for Baker and the Bucs, even if they do end up losing. Like I think the Eagles are, I've mentioned it a million times, the most complete team in the NFL. They have the best overall roster in the NFL. Everyone knows that they're the defending Super Bowl champions and arguably got better this offseason with the moves they made in the draft, getting Jahad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama, on that roster. That's unbelievable that they were able to get him in the first round. And they loaded up on offense still. They have the receivers to beat up on this Tampa Bay secondary. And in Tampa Bay, so it's going to be nice weather, you know that they're going to be able to run the football well with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. The offensive line for the Eagles is great. They can neutralize the Tampa Bay defense on the ground. And then this Eagles defense is so deep in so many positions. Their secondary is young, which does scare me a little bit. But I think that if this becomes a high-powered offensive game, I think the Eagles can go shot for shot with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, obviously with Jalen Hurts and the receivers they have, and then the ground game with Barkley. So I think this could be a game where even if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers end up losing this game, which I think they will do, it could be a one-score game where they're hanging with the Super Bowl champs, and everyone's like, this could be an NFC championship game preview, and people are going to take the Buccaneers seriously, even in a loss.
And you know what? I think both of you are right there. I think it's one of those ones where, sure, is this maybe one of those spots come season time? God forbid there's an injury for the Eagles at this point. Maybe the Buccaneers are playing even better than we're thinking. And you're like, you know what? This is a good they're a 4-point dog, good sneaky spot. Maybe you try them. But looking at the preview, it's hard to fade this team. They can beat you in almost every single way possible. They're better than you at pretty much anything you try to do. It's just such a tough team to beat. And like Ella mentioned, like we keep mentioning, even though it's an improved defense, is it improved enough to stop the Super Bowl champs, Saquon Barkley? Look, bro, if you can't stop Jalen Hurts 1 yard tush push up the middle, you can't fucking beat these guys. You just can't. Like, they can get every fourth down, they get what they want. Every goal line, they get what they want. They don't have to settle for field goals. It's just at some point they're going to wear on you. And I just think they wear on them as the game goes. I actually believe, futuristic prediction here. I think the Bucs are winning at halftime. I think we got like a 20-13 up right here at halftime. Things are looking good. But like I said, it's going to wear on them. I think they're going to kind of choke it late in the fourth quarter. Jalen Hurts is going to do what he does. And I think they find a way to probably tush push for the win. Jalen Hurts falls in for his second of the day, and I think they lose this one by 3 or 4 points. But I think you both nailed it. Going to be a close one, but you just can't take Tampa Bay at this point in the season. But moving on through here, we got another really good game here coming up, and this one's going to tell us a lot about this team. They go 2 on the road to open the year. Then they got 2 at home, and then they turn right back around and they go on the road to Seattle, which if you guys know what a map looks like, this is not an easy place to travel. for Tampa Bay. Not only are they traveling, I mean, thank God they get that 4:05 p.m. window, so at least there's something there. But 4:05 p.m. in Seattle, Ella, this Seahawks team, they got Sam Darnold taking the reins, no more Geno Smith, and obviously no Pete Carroll over there. Really good running game in Seattle. This is going to be a shootout kind of game. Which team comes out on top?
So I have the Bucks for the win here. I mean, these two teams have not played each other since 2022. Both teams in this game are going to try to establish where they stand in this early season, but I think that the Seahawks leave many gaps in between the secondary, and if the Bucks are able to protect the ball and get help from the run game, the Bucks can definitely control the overall pace of this game. But ultimately, I think this game comes down to turnovers and possession, which is just battling against the clock, honestly. And I think a win here for the Bucks would be a huge confidence boost for them, especially against such a well-coached team. But the Seahawks have a very young defense, and they're still growing, so the Bucks could definitely exploit that to their advantage. So I think the Bucks have the win for this game.
Big time win here if you can go on the road and find a way to get this one done. But Bryson, she just mentioned, I want to give a quick shout out to our girl Ashley, Mike McDonald over there in Seattle, one of those coaches where last year you either bought in on this man and you were on the Riggs and Ashley train or you weren't. And about half the team was like, yeah, Riggs, nah, dude, stop with that. This dude's not doing great. He's an overrated defensive coach. He doesn't have these guys locked in. He took a team that was pretty good on defense and didn't make them any better. Bryson, is this going to be an improved defense this year, and are they going to give Baker Mayfield fits in this one?
I think it's definitely going to be an improved defense. I don't know if Seattle's going to be a top 10 defense or anything like that, but they do have a very interesting secondary, especially at the corner positions, long, lengthy, athletic corners. Maybe not the best technical, fundamental type of guys, but just physical freaks with insanely long arms and the ability to, even when they get beat, have the ability to recover and make a play on a ball is going to be something that's going to be interesting to watch with Seattle. The reason I have the Bucs winning this game is I have no idea what Sam Darnold we're getting. I think people forget just how perfect his situation was in Minnesota last year, and that played into him playing so well. I mean, he had, like I've mentioned, a top 3 to 5 offensive play caller in this sport as his head coach with Kevin O'Connell. He had, in my opinion, the best receiver in the NFL with Justin Jefferson, one of the best number 2 receivers, a really good tight end, and a really solid offensive line. And now he goes to Seattle. JSN is good. I don't think he's anywhere close to the type of receivers he had in Minnesota. Their run game is good, but consistently injured. You never know if Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet are playing week to week. And the Seattle offensive line is pretty abysmal. So I have no idea. And he's going to have Clint Kubiak, who I'm a big fan of, but this is his second year as an offensive play caller. Who knows what he's going to look like? I think this is going to be a really rough season for Sam Darnold. I think it's going to be a wake-up call for him and Seattle fans just a little bit. And I think that this is going to be one of those games where Baker Mayfield just completely outclasses Sam Darnold from start to finish.
Damn. Mic drop. I could just be like, all right, bet I'm with these two. Let's go with the Buccaneers to go on the road here and get this one done. I think you mentioned it, and the big point is Sam Darnold ain't that dude. Luckily, I keep running into getting to talk about this. Thank you for not giving me Sam Darnold for 4 years and too much money in Pittsburgh, because I don't think I would have been okay. I would have never bought a jersey. I would have been more likely to burn a jersey than buy a jersey. So, anyway, all of that said here, I do believe that they're going to go on the road here and get a big win for all the reasons you guys said. It's a close one. Seattle, a very tough place to play football, really tough spot in the year. I just think you're going to barely beat the window of them not quite meshing yet. And that's the big point for me in this one. Bryson, the one thing you did say that I don't necessarily agree with you on is just the running game. It is inconsistent with injuries, but if it is healthy, I've said it last year, I think it's the best duo in all of football. I think Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker last year was the only one better than that was Gibbs and Montgomery in Detroit. So for me, I think they're legitimate when they're playing well. But we'll see what happens here. Baker Mayfield, Rachaad White, Bucky Irving. This is going to be a duo of backs, and hopefully the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can find a way to get this one done. But like Ella said, haven't got a new picture since 2022, so please get us a new one for 2026. We'd really appreciate it there. But moving on through here, bringing up that schedule again for you guys, and jumping on into week number 6. You are at home. San Francisco 49ers come to town, as we talked about on the San Francisco show. This team needing major redemption after what happened last year. Brock Purdy gets a bag in the offseason. Bryson, Ella, I don't know. Maybe you agree with it. Maybe you don't. But the guy got his money, so he doesn't have to live in a 3-bedroom apartment anymore, sharing with 2 other players. So here we go. Is Brock Purdy going to earn his money in this one, Ella? Or is this another big win at home for Baker Mayfield?
I think this is another win for the Buccaneers, but even though I think that the 49ers do have lots of offensive firepower, such as McCaffrey, and he's really the centerpiece leading the league in total yards of scrimmage and touchdowns. He has an amazing ability to run, catch, and make defenders mismakes. Sorry. But it makes them nearly impossible to contain for these other teams. But they do have an elite defense led by very disciplined players who really don't fold under pressure, but they have shown a pattern to underperform once or twice during the season. So I think that this game will be one of those games where they do underperform, and this is another revenge game for the Buccaneers. So their defense will need to be sharp and disciplined to slow them down.
Absolutely. Mr. Owens, what you got to add to that?
Yeah, the San Francisco 49ers, which I'm sure we'll get to when we talk about them and their show, have a really interesting season because I think they're going to win a lot of football games because they have the easiest schedule in the NFL this year. But this is one of the few tough games the 49ers play, and this is where you're going to see, in my opinion, the real 49ers team show up. I don't think San Francisco is going to be great this year. I think they have a lot of aging players on the roster. I don't love their weapons. Brandon Ayuk, maybe he's back by now, but even if he is back, he's barely up to full speed from his torn ACL a year ago. Even before he tore his ACL, he wasn't very good last season anyway, so who knows what Brandon Ayuk we're getting. Ricky Pearsall, I'm a big Jennings guy, but I think he's a better number 3 receiver than a number 2, which is the role he's moving into. Ella mentioned McCaffrey, who, as a Colorado guy, I love Christian McCaffrey, but I just mentioned with the Seahawks, consistency with health at the running back position, there's probably not a single player in the NFL that has that question mark on him more than Christian McCaffrey lately. Like, you never know if he's going to be healthy week to week at this point in his career. Their offensive line isn't great. I don't love San Francisco's secondary. I think Tampa Bay can pick apart that secondary pretty easily. I think this is going to be a pretty comfortable Buccaneers win, and I think people are going to question, like, they might prop up the Bucs to a level maybe they don't deserve because of the win. Like, they're going to beat the San Francisco 49ers, in my opinion, by like 10 plus points. And people are going to instantly put them in that they're the second best or they're the best team in the NFC conversation. And I think people are going to be a little overrating this win because I don't think San Francisco is going to be that great.
So a couple quick things. I do have to say we did do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers show, or the 49ers show was actually the very first show that we did do. And I know you weren't on that one, but we did cover that show. So if you guys want to catch that show on our YouTube channel with all of the other NFL shows so far, I want to say this is show number 7. So we're getting moving here. You guys can find that at The Sports Forum. Click that subscribe button, drop a comment. We love the haters. We love the lovers. Go ahead and let us know how you guys are feeling. But that said, here in that show, Bryson, I have to admit it, my man, I couldn't believe it, but I gave them 11 wins, dog. Yeah, 11 or 12 wins. And I said, they're going to bounce back. They're going to start 8-2. I mean, I have them rolling to start the year. And I got to say, I don't recall if I had them beating Tampa Bay in Tampa. That's one that I feel like I could have given a loss in that one, but go ahead, and I'm going to disregard. You guys got to go watch the show to figure out myself. and my co-host for that show's picks because I don't recall them necessarily, but I do remember them having the easiest show. That's why we did them first. And I did go pretty heavy on San Francisco, even though going into that show, I didn't think that I was going to. The schedule is just so freaking easy for them. But this is a big-time test. I'm going to say I'd probably go with the dog in this game if both teams come in healthy. I want whichever one has a plus sign in front of it for the betting purposes. So that's what I would do here. But listen to these guys. They got all the info on that one. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, San Francisco 49ers going to be a good one. But moving on through, we got a pretty solid game here coming up in week number 7 at the Detroit Lions, Monday Night Football, October 20th, ABC and ESPN, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. You're walking in, taking on Bryson. You kind of alluded to it earlier in the show. Could this be a preview of an NFC championship? Well, this could be the game that takes that team to the NFC championship. Buccaneers, Lions, tough place to go and play, but at least it's indoors. It is getting a little bit chilly outside at this point. Bryson, are you rocking with Jared Goff in this one? In what I assume is going to be a 30, potentially 40-something to 30-something shootout.
I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Detroit and winning this football game. I think that the secondary for Detroit scares me a little bit. Wow. They're still young. They're still trying to figure things out. It wasn't a great secondary. It wasn't a great defense for Detroit last year in general. Obviously, a lot of injuries had to play into that. And I think Detroit's defense is going to be a little bit healthier this next season. But this Tampa Bay offense just has weapons all over the place. We've talked about the receivers enough. But then you mentioned earlier Rachaad White and Bucky Irving. I think they're going to be in contention for one of the best running back duos in the NFL this year. You go Cade Otton at tight end. The offensive line for Tampa Bay is great. I think this is going to be a shootout. Being indoors is wonderful for those kinds of things. And I just think that Tampa Bay has enough weapons to get the job done. And the strength of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is on the run game. I believe they gave up somewhere around – they were in the top 10, I believe, in rush defense a year ago. That defensive line for Tampa Bay is very good. They get to the quarterback really well as well. They were in the top 5 in sacks last year, top 5 in pressure rate. So I think that they're going to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, which doesn't happen to Detroit very often, but I think it's going to happen in this game. So I think it could be a shootout, one of the higher scoring games of the entire NFL season, and I think it goes in favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Can I get a score prediction just to have some fun here because we're saying so many points?
Oh, gosh. I think this could be in contention for the highest scoring game of the entire season, like I mentioned. I think someone's breaking 40 points. So I'm going to go 41-38 Detroit or Tampa Bay.
Wow. Okay. Ella, are you somewhere in that realm with Bryson?
I'm not. I'm going to have to disagree.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah, I think the Lions do have a very strong passing attack led by Jared Goff, and they do play an amazing running game with David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs. But I think the Lions do have a very balanced team, and their defense has improved, but they do control the line of scrimmage. They run the ball with a lot of purpose, and they're able to wear the other team's defense down. So Tampa's defense front might struggle a little bit to just generate that consistency and the pressure, or to just stop the run of the game. And that could make the Bucs very one-dimensional, and this game could be very dangerous for them. So I think that if the Buccaneers fall behind very early in this game, I agree with Bryson that he said it was going to be a high-scoring game, but I believe it's going to be a high-scoring game for the Lions instead of the Bucs. But I think that Tampa does fall behind early. They will struggle to keep that pace, and the Lions do play very fast and physical, and on their home turf, I think they're going to pull off this win.
Score prediction, Bryson is saying 41-38 Tampa Bay. Where do you fall then for the Lions?
I think it's going to be a little lower than that. Maybe, I don't know, 35-17.
Okay, that's fair. You know, I'm really stuck here because I think you're both correct across the board for every single thing that you said, Bryson. I think that the offense is going to have a big game here for Tampa Bay. I think it is going to be a very high scoring game. I do think they're going to find success being indoors, but Ella, on the other side, I do agree with you that weapon for weapon, shot for shot, you could argue the Lions are just a little better in every category. Now, am I going to say Jared Goff is better than Baker Mayfield? Maybe not quite. There's two completely different quarterbacks. It's almost impossible to compare the two, to be honest with you, because at some moments, I'm watching Baker and I'm like, yeah, that's why the Browns cut him. And then the next day, I think he's great. And on the other side, I look at Jared Goff and I'm like, oh, he's great. And then he throws 4 picks, but still finds a way to win the game. So, like, I don't really know, but I feel like you could say at home, you give Goff the edge. You give the run game the slightest of edges. Bryson, you mentioned it. We're talking about 2 of the 3 best duos in all of football right now. So it's just so hard to break this one down. Defensively, they both had major loops and loopholes in the defense last year, especially through the air, deep across the middle. Dude, I don't even know. This is impossible for me. What I do know is I think, Bryson, from a betting point of view, you have the value in this game. I don't see a world that Tampa Bay ever walk into Detroit as a favorite to win. It's just not going to happen. So I'd probably take the dog with the points when it rolls around. But Ella, I'm gonna painfully join you on this one, just because there's something here about Detroit at home. I got to give them the edge here. In Tampa, I'm going Tampa, but in Detroit, I'm going Detroit. So this should be a very – yeah.
I want to point out another thing I didn't mention earlier that's interesting with both these teams. Both these teams lost their extremely bright, very creative and incredibly intelligent play callers. Obviously, Ben Johnson going from Detroit to Chicago, and then Baker Mayfield loses Liam Cohen to the Jaguars. The difference is Jared Goff has kind of had 2 of the smartest offensive minds for the majority of his entire NFL career as his play caller. He went from McVay in LA kind of straight to Ben Johnson in Detroit, and so it's going to be interesting to see what Goff looks like with a completely new play caller. On the other side, Baker's had a different offensive play caller, I think, every year of his NFL career. So this is nothing new to Baker. So I think it's going to be interesting to see which offense gets rolling early in the season between these two teams, because they're facing similar circumstances. Genius offensive play callers both leave for head coaching jobs. One quarterback's used to it. One quarterback really isn't. It's going to be interesting to see who adjusts to that change in their careers a little bit quicker.
Well, at this point, with all the information on the table, I think it's clear to say not only is this one of the best games of the year, one of the highest scoring games of the year, week number 7, but there's also a lot riding on it. I mean, this is just one of those, if you guys are going to plan your Vegas trip and you're trying to go before Halloween, I would go right here on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, because this is going to be a good weekend right here. Also, just throwing it out there, total sidebar, this is a great weekend in college football, the weekend of the 18th, so make sure that you lock into that one. But anyway, moving on through, guys. Now you go from on the road at Detroit. 6 days later, you get right back on the plane and you fly to New Orleans. But thank you, God, you get to go play the New Orleans Saints, because it doesn't get much easier than this. We know the history between these two teams. Mike Evans really doesn't like those guys over there in New Orleans. But that said, Ella, in your opinion, could this be a trap game for the Buccaneers? Could this be, you're coming off a game against San Francisco and Detroit, and you're like, we just got to get to week 8 so we can stomp on those guys. Could they sleep on this New Orleans team and magically lose this one in some kind of low-scoring, ugly game?
Now that I think about it, I think they could. I think they could be going into this game thinking that, they're not going to have to try as hard as they had in the last 2 weeks for their games. But I mean, I have them coming out for a win right now, but they could honestly be going into this game thinking that they don't have to put in much effort. And then in the first half, they just get totally blindsided by the Saints. Yep. But I mean, last season, the Buccaneers won twice playing against them. So obviously they already know that they're a very strong team against them. The Bucs offense was very strong during both of these games, especially in the second half of the games. But they were able to capitalize on the Saints' mistakes very quickly and intercept the ball multiple times. So, I mean, the Saints could be on the revenge tour with this game too, but
Yeah.
you know, I think the Bucs are just going there. I think they may think that it might be an easy game, or they can think that, that they have to keep trying harder and prove that they can dominate over this team and win a third time. But the Saints, they have been revamping their offense with a lot of young talent and an evolving offensive line, but the quarterback play has been very inconsistent for this team. So, I mean, Tampa is going to have to keep a lot of pressure on the quarterback to force him to make a ton of mistakes and possible turnovers for this game. So, I mean, I think the Bucs have the win for this game, but we'll see.
We will see. I mean, every single thing you're saying there, you're right. It points towards Tampa Bay just goes here and they handle business, and they really should go here and they should handle business. But I got to say, Bryson, one of the things I'm super sad about, and for all you guys that watch, one of my favorite things to do every single week is talk shit about Derek Carr, and I don't get to do it this year. So trust me, I'll find a way to still do it. His dumb ass is going to pop up on a panel somewhere, and I'm going to have so much fun with it. But anyway, I have to watch a new quarterback. We all have to watch a new quarterback. Is it going to be Spencer Rattler? Is it going to be Tyler Shuck? I mean, who knows at this point in the season who the quarterback's going to be. I'm going to join Ella here. I don't have much else to say. This should be an ass whooping. Should be. So I'm going to go ahead and say I think Tampa Bay bounced back here, whether they're coming off a win or a really tough loss to Detroit. I'm going to say 38-17. I think I'm being generous. Honestly, this Saints team, they're bad, man. Their only option is to get to the quarterback, pick off the ball 2-3 times, have some run go for 68 yards and a touchdown early, and maybe they have a shot, but I don't think they do. So give me the Bucs as well.
Yeah, you guys mentioned a lot of points to make this kind of a trap game for Tampa Bay. Obviously, the stretch they're just coming off of, the 4 straight games of Eagles, Seahawks, Niners, Lions. Like, that's a brutal stretch going right at New Orleans. But then the other thing that you guys hadn't mentioned yet is the next week is their bye week. So that's another factor into them maybe just wanting to just get done with this game. I think Ella made a great point. Maybe not a full type of trap game, but like I could see the Saints competing in the first half. Like Tampa Bay just sleepwalks through the first half, and it's at least competitive for the first 2 quarters. In the second half, Tampa Bay really turns it on. Also, for whatever reason, like how many times last year did we watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play a game where we were like, yeah, they should win this game by like 2+ touchdowns, and it took them the final drive to get the win. And it's for whatever reason, Todd Bowles coached teams really play down to their opponents. Like they'll compete with some of the best teams in football, and they'll win some games you don't think they should win. But then they play a team who's got 3 wins, and you're like, yeah, Tampa Bay should roll these guys. And it takes them 3.5 quarters for them to find their stride. So I think there's some potential for that. Fortunately for Tampa Bay, I think New Orleans is going to be the worst team in football. Really brutal team for Kellen Moore to make his head coaching debut. I feel bad for him because I think he is a very bright young mind in the NFL. I think he's going to be a very good head coach moving forward. The Saints team is not built to win. I don't think they want to win. They'll never admit to tanking, but I don't think the New Orleans Saints want to win football games either. So I'm in agreement with you guys. I think Tampa Bay wins this one pretty easily.
Should have took Shedeur Sanders. You choked, but you know what? Good for you. You made a point. Good for you, idiots.
They could get Arch
but
Manning,
it's all good. They might. You're right. I guess there is a world. You're right. I'll shut up now. Maybe there's a world, but like you said, these guys will do something dumb where they have it locked up, and all they got to do is lose the last, one of the last 2 games, and they'll win out, the last 2 games and screw themselves, kind of like the New York Giants always do. So who knows? We'll see what happens, but. We're pretty much saying this should be Tampa Bay. It shouldn't be close. It probably starts close, shouldn't, and then turns into a win. But, Bryson, the only last thing I want to say on this is you mentioned the bye week coming up afterward. And even though, sure, I guess there's a point where you kind of sleep on that, I feel like most teams, it's a huge thing that week of that they have a bye week coming up where the coach is like, let's get the momentum. Let's go out on a big win. Let's get the good vibes going for next week. So I actually almost am less worried about the Trap with it being a bye week because I think they're going to be really locked in knowing let's go play our asses off and then we get to go home and have a week to ourselves. So, but anyway, we will see what happens, guys. Tampa Bay versus New Orleans there, going with Tampa Bay to get it done. Then you move on through here to week number 10, and you got the New England Patriots coming to town Sunday, November 9th. Bryson and I have been very high throughout the entire offseason on Drake May, the New England Patriots. Are they going to be good? Are they not? Ella, I don't have your take yet on Drake May, New England. Is this team going to be decent? Are they going to be just as bad as they were last year? Is this a tough game for Tampa Bay, in your opinion, in Tampa?
I think it's going to be kind of a tough game, but I do have the Bucs winning this game. I honestly think overall it'll be a battle of the quarterbacks because they have such contrasting styles to both of them. Mayfield is known for his experience and his overall just everything. I mean, he's a great quarterback, but May this is his second year. So, I mean, he has shown a lot of talent and he is expected to lead the Patriots offense, but I think that the Bucs, they have an advantage of their head coach. He's able just to maintain a very competitive edge to him and their team. And I think that will continue with their dominance for this game. I think that they have leverage with Mayfield because of his leadership and because of how long he's been playing with this team against just a second-year quarterback with the Patriots. But and the Patriots, they are in a rebuilding stage. So, I mean, their young talent could either help them in this game and in this season, or it could honestly just throw off their entire team and just create a bunch of challenges for them. But the Bucs do have the home field advantage, so they're coming off a week of rest, which gives them the edge in this game, in my opinion.
And I think you nailed it there with is the young team thing going to pay off? Or is the young team thing going to take another year before anyone takes them seriously? And Bryson, I do got to ask you, man, you look here, once again, this is week number 10. So you kind of know the writing's on the wall at this point. Are they legit? Are they meshing? Are they not? What do you think we're seeing with the Patriots at this point?
So you've heard me say a number of times, Riggs, I think the Patriots are going to surprise some people. I think they're going to be one of those teams that at the end of the year, they need a win and some other teams' losses to fight for that last wild card spot. I think they're about a year away from really competing with these type of teams like Tampa Bay. I think actually, in my opinion, I know you'll disagree with me on this, Riggs, but I think the Patriots have the coaching advantage. I think they'll be better prepared. I think Mike Vrabel is a better coach than Todd Bowles. And I think that the rest of the coaching staff for New England's a little bit better than Tampa Bay right now. So I think they're going to be better prepared. This is going to be a game where the experience and the overall talent for Tampa Bay wins them this football game. The weapons they have compared to the weapons New England still has, and the experience on defense versus some of the young pieces still finding their way on defense for New England. So, and it being in Tampa Bay, I would give Tampa Bay the win here, but I think it's going to be really close. I think Drake May is going to play really well this year. I think that you're going to see this Patriots team not quite be ready to be a playoff team, but you're going to see them in like a year or two back to being one of those teams that's consistently fighting for those playoff spots and fighting for the wild card spots. I don't think they'll ever pass the Bills as long as Josh Allen's there, but I think New England's close. I just think they're about a year away. And I think Tampa Bay is in a spot right now to compete, not only obviously for the playoffs, for their division. I think this Tampa Bay team is good enough to compete in the NFC Championship game. They're that level of a team. So it's a talent versus, I think New England's just a year away from being there.
Yeah, and Ella, you mentioned them coming off the bye and being at home. And I will say that's a trend this year, at least for the 7 teams we've done so far. I might be wrong, but at least 6 of those 7 play at home after their bye weeks again. So very interesting, very big advantage, almost like the league's trying to give you something a little bit there with that in your favor. But Bryson, you also mentioned it, man. I agree with you. I think this game comes down to it. I think this is a final 3 minutes of the game. kind of game here. And a lot of people are going to write them off, and they're going to look at the bye week and they're going to say, this is Tampa all day. And it might be Tampa pulls away and wins by 17 with, two things happening. It's a pick six, something. You're like, oh, it was a blowout, but it's not going to be a blowout. And I agree with you. Yeah. I'm going to say it's a 3 or 4 point game at halftime. And I think it's a 3 or 4 point game when it's all said and done. But Chase McLaughlin at home, I'll take that kicker over what New England's got outdoors at this point in the season. So I'm going to go ahead and take Tampa Bay, but I will join you on the fact that if there is a spread on this game that is favorable, I will be taking the Patriots to cover. God forbid they give me 4.5. Please give me 4.5, and I'll take it all day long here. But
I think Tampa Bay is going to be closer to a touchdown favorite. Them being at home, I think is going to make that a pretty big spread. And I think the Patriots have a real shot to cover whatever it is.
I'm right there. Once again, if it's the Patriots team that we think have potential this year, sure, then that's way too many points. But if it's the one like Ella mentioned, if it's this team that's discombobulated and they're young and they're making mistakes and they're committing too many penalties, and then I'm not touching them with a 10-foot pole. So I guess we'll figure it out come week number 10. But for now, guys, we are moving on over to week number 11 at the Buffalo Bills. It's getting chilly outside. November 16th, 1:00 p.m. At least it's not a night game. Ella, I don't know your full take on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, but this is a tough football team to go on the road and play. How does this one shake out?
So I have the Bills winning for this game. I think that, I'm from the north, and I know how cold it is down there. And, I think the cold weather is just going to honestly just rock them. I know in November it could either be like still very warm or it could be like snow on the ground. And with the weather now, I think it's going to be snow on the ground there. So I think that could play a huge role in how they're going to perform. And the Bills obviously do have the advantage playing there because they're already used to the cold and everything. But I think that the Bucs will definitely have to utilize Mayfield's strength and his abilities of the abilities of the wide receivers that they have on the team. But their offensive line will definitely need to protect Mayfield throughout this game in order to just protect him and make sure that he doesn't get sacked at all during this game. But the Bills are known for their aggression and their defense. They have multiple key players on their team. And I think the Bucs offense does have potential to exploit the Bills, but I don't think they will succeed in that area. So I'm giving this a win for the Bills.
Yep. And I like what you said about the weather here because it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, if it's snowing, if it's cold ass wind, it doesn't, if you've been over here, right? And Bryson knows, Bryson's out there in Denver. If you've been here, all I can tell you folks, it ain't Tampa. Okay. So it doesn't really matter how cold. It doesn't matter if it's 2 feet or gusts of wind. This is going to favor Buffalo. It's going to favor the running of Josh Allen. It just favors them so much in this game. So I'm going to go quick, and then Bryce, I'm going to let you fire away. I like Tampa Bay. They're going to be outmatched in this one. I'm going to join Ella. I think Josh Allen has, I'm going to say at this point in the year, his second best game of the season. I think he dices them. I think he goes for 350 plus, 3 touchdowns, 2 of which are running. I just think it's a huge game for Josh Allen, puts the team on his back against a pretty decent foe in the Buccaneers. So give me Buffalo as well. Mr. Owens.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, when we did the Bills show, I had the Bills winning this game against Tampa Bay, largely because it is a Florida team going to Buffalo in November, in the middle of November. So it's going to be cold. There'll probably be some snow going on. It's going to be windy because unlike here a lot of times in Denver, up in the northeastern part of the world with the ocean right there, the breeze coming in and everything, it gets super windy, super cold. It's a different type of cold than it is here in Denver, Colorado. And it's not, I can't imagine it's very fun to play in, especially if you're a team like Tampa who you're used to playing in 90-degree weather and maybe some rain games, but not very often. Mm-hmm. And so I think the weather is a big factor. And for whatever reason, there are these players every now and then you get in the NFL who almost seem to play better when it's crappy weather out, when it's snowing a ton, when it's super windy. And Josh Allen is one of those players. Like, I feel like whenever there's a couple inches of snow on the ground, that's when Josh Allen becomes Superman, and he runs for, the 75 yards, and he has the 2 rushing touchdowns. And because he's so big and strong, he can still throw that ball through the air, and it's like nothing's wrong with the weather. So I'm going to take the Bills to win as well. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Tough game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, man, I feel like we might regret this. I think we might look back on this and all three of us are going to look like idiots, but I think it's a risk we're willing to take here. It's going to have to be a bad Allen game and a perfect Baker game and a massive running game for both running backs on Tampa Bay just to have a chance to win this game. So I don't know, Bryson, I've given quite a bit of crap to Sean McDermott up there in Buffalo, and, are his coaching abilities up to par? And I don't necessarily trust his defenses, but this is a game that should favor the defense. So This is a, Tampa Bay, show me that I'm wrong. Show me that I'm wrong kind of game. But until then, you got to rock with Josh Allen, who, by the way, in my opinion, is on a revenge tour this year, and he finally wants to get that ring. So anyway, and he's going to be in conversation with Lamar Jackson and maybe Baker Mayfield for the MVP. So I guess you just don't know. Then you go, we got to get scrolling here. Week number 12. We're moving on through at the LA Rams. If you guys know me, I'm not an LA Rams guy. Bryson is an LA Rams guy. So Ella, it comes down to you. Are you an LA Rams woman, or is Baker Mayfield, who, by the way, was a Ram for like a game, and he looked great in that game, is Baker going to go here and take down Sean McVay and Matt Stafford's LA Rams?
I am for the LA Rams on this game. I'm not a huge fan of them, but I think this game they're going to win. I think that the Rams have the advantage of one of the best offensive minds in football, which is their coach, Sean McVay, if I'm saying that right. I think so. Yep. He adapts game plans weekly to maximize his players' strengths, and he has created a matchup within the offense full of both veterans and new players, which is very important to get those new players in with experienced players. I think that's very important in every team, just so, when one player gets hurt or something happens that they just need to rebuild, I think it's very important that they have those fresh legs in there. And I just think that the chemistry of this team is really just unmatched. They work together very well, and they have improved their pass protection and decent running blocking, which kept the offense balanced and dangerous, which was seen in their last season in 2024. I think that their defense plays fast and very aggressive, which forces a lot of turnovers. And they pulled off several wins in the fourth quarter or in overtime. So I think that this game will go into overtime, and I think it's going to be a very tough game for the Buccaneers to overthrow the Rams, especially on their field. So, I give the win to the Rams.
All right, Bryson, I know you're looking at this picture, and it gives you just slight memories there as a Denver Bronco fan, but that's okay. Anyway, so what's going to happen here, man, is look at that. We got commercials. What's going to happen here? Do you think Baker Mayfield walks on the road here and finds a way against your boy, Matt Stafford, who, by the way, is aged, is overrated, and is fading out of the league?
This is really tough because I love both quarterbacks. I love both these teams in general. I think these are probably – I'm a massive Broncos fan, obviously, but these are probably two of the teams I root for the most after my Broncos. I think both of them are so fun to watch. And I think Ella made a lot of good points. I think the Sean McVay part is the biggest one. I think Sean McVay is up there with the best coaches in football. I think Todd Bowles is going to be outmatched in this one. Like, I'm not the biggest Todd Bowles guy anyway, and him going up against the Sean McVay team is really dangerous. The underrated part about this Rams team is that defense is really good. It's a really good – it's not the deepest defense in the NFL. The secondary gets a little bit sketchy after their starters, but that defensive line has a ton of players that can rotate in and out and get pressure on the quarterback. The starting secondary is very talented and good, so if they're healthy in that department, they'll be fine. And them getting this offense with Devontae Adams next to Puka Nacua and that run game with Kyron Williams and the offensive line getting a little bit better every year, I think this Rams team is set up to be one of the better ones in the NFC, and they're also a very good second half of the season team the last 2 years. After I think it's like been week 10 both years, they've been one of the best teams in football in terms of win percentage in the regular season. So I think the Rams are, and if everyone remembers correctly, the Rams were the only team in the playoffs last year that gave the Eagles any kind of issues. Like, it was a one possession game in that game. Everyone else, the Eagles blew out. So I think that showed how well coached the Rams are. And I think this is going to be and one other point, going from Buffalo to LA, maybe they go back to Tampa Bay in the middle, but still going from Tampa Bay all the way to LA. You mentioned earlier, Riggs, with one of the previous games, going from East Coast to West Coast. It's a brutal trip, and I think that's going to play a big factor. So I think the Rams come away with a win here.
Oh, bro, I don't like this game. Can we go to the next week? You know what? That's what we're going to do. We're going to move on through here. They gave you the information that you need. I'm not a Ram believer. The problem is, I think, Bryson, you pointed out, everything points towards Rams when it comes to what's in their favor in this game. And I do agree with you that he is a better coach than Bowles. I don't really think it's a conversation. The problem is everything that doesn't have to do with players, I agree with you. But players on the field, I like Tampa Bay in this game. I like the run game better. I like the quarterback better. Low-key, kind of like the defense better. The Rams defense, ever since they won a Super Bowl, kind of gets worse every year. You can say what you want, but they really aren't the same defense that they were. So, honestly, like, I like Tampa. I just don't like the scenario, and it really concerns me. So, do with that what you will, folks. I guess I have to make a decision. So, no way I'm taking Matt Stafford. Give me Baker Mayfield on the road. With a brutal road stretch here, like Bryson mentioned. But this guy right here, yeah, change the jersey color. Producers, go. Just kidding. All right, and moving on through here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers got another fun one here coming up. This time you get to be at home, and you got the Arizona Cardinals. You can take a breath after playing Buffalo and Los Angeles. You got Arizona, then you got New Orleans, then you got Atlanta. So you're starting to look here and say, okay, we got to stack up the wins at some point. Ella, the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray coming to town, kind of, once again, talking about distance, a tough game for Arizona. They always struggle when they take their butts over there to the East Coast area. Is this a win for Tampa?
I think it is a win for Tampa. I mean, like you just said, the traveling does take a toll on just everything, really, on their bodies and just how they perform. And I mean, I think the weather is fine. I mean, in Arizona, it's very humid, but I think that the dry heat is very different from the humidity down in Tampa. So that could have a little effect on the players down there. But like you said, Kyle Murray, he's very unpredictable. And the Cardinals do have some threats on their team, which could make it difficult for the Buccaneers to have the win for this game. But I think that this game really comes down to who wins the turnovers. And yeah, I think the Cardinals defense, they do have the ability to force turnovers, but the Bucs do thrive on opportunistic plays. So I think they do have the win for this one.
Yeah. Bryson, go ahead, my man. You know, I'm over here in my head building my case for Kyler Murray. So.
Yeah, this one I think is a relatively easy win for Tampa Bay. It just kind of feels like, because you know me, Riggs, I love Kyler Murray as well. It just kind of feels like every year you're like, Kyler should be a little bit better. The offense that Kyler leads should be a little bit better than it actually is. And he has the talent to do it now, like Marvin Harrison Jr., the tight end, Trey McBride, who's one of the better tight ends in football.
Run game still sucks.
Yeah, the run game's not great. The offensive line isn't great. The defense overperformed last season, but still wasn't great for Arizona. Like, even overperforming, you were still like, yeah, but it's still like maybe a top 20 defense in football at best. And so I think this is one where just the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home, they come off a brutal back-to-back road stretch like we've talked about. I think they take care of business. This should be a pretty easy, like, 10-plus point win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
there's this little piece of me that wants to say blowout. Tampa Bay, 35-14. Kyler does not much at all. He does this thing where he runs backwards, gets taken down, and just looks horrible per usual. And I think that's about 75% likelihood of what's exactly going to happen. However, I'm rocking with Kyler Murray to go on the road in this one. And I think this is a look ahead kind of, we just got to get to Arizona kind of game for Tampa Bay based on what happened before. Now, I do have them beating LA, so maybe it's a little bit less needy for me, I guess, at this point. But I just think it's one of those games that you circle and you say, that's a win. And I don't think it's that easy here against Kyler Murray. I do think James Conner can find some success on the ground in this game, even though they still didn't get him help, which just pisses me off, but it is what it is. They could have gone for a guy like Shedeur Sanders or one of the better quarterbacks early in the draft. If they really had all these concerns about Kyler Murray, which they talk about concerns, but they never do anything about it. So I don't really understand that. So I'm going to believe in Kyler Murray. Bryson, you have my word, dog. This is the last time. This is the last season. We've got like 4 seasons in a row. I have hyped this man up, and he burns me it's like Sid the Sloth every time, if you know what I'm talking about. I have to at some point turn my back on him, but I can't do it yet. I'm still a believer that this has been more of the coaching and the poor depth and the defense than it has been on Kyler Murray. And you do scare me with the defense thing because they did overperform. Shout out to my boy Dennis Gardeck and Sioux Falls University. But I just feel like this is Kyler Murray's got to dice up here. He's got to run in 2 and he's got to throw for 3 or they're not going to win this game. I just think he can get it done. So I'm going to go Arizona here in a shocker in week number 12 at this point in the season. 13. Okay, 14 here. We're into December football. Back at home, New Orleans Saints. We're going to zoom through this one, y'all. Is it fair to say we're all saying win for Tampa Bay? Saints are cooked in this game. And like Bryson mentioned, they don't want to win. We good?
Yeah, I think this is an easy one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving on through here. December 11th, my brother's birthday. Shout out to the boy. Thursday night football. Atlanta Falcons come to town, 8:15 p.m. Prime Video. Catch the concert, as we keep trying to tell you guys. We don't get paid by Prime for saying that, so I don't know how we say it, but you should do it. Ella, in this game here, this is a tough game. It's a very important game. Week 15, who takes the win here in primetime?
Yeah, so like I said in week 1, I think that the Buccaneers really do have the motivation to beat the Falcons. This is the second time they're playing them this season, and I think that if they win the first week, they're going to have even more motivation to beat them a second time since they lost to them twice last season. But the Bucs do need to stay very strong and motivated during this game. But and they will have home turf advantage this time. So I think that'll give them the upper hand for this game, even if they do lose the first game to them. But yeah, Tampa needs to stay very strong in the second half, and no matter the outcome of the first 2 quarters, they need to get it together for this game for sure. So I have the Bucs winning for this one.
This is really hard for me personally because I just had them losing a tough one to Arizona, beating LA, losing to Buffalo, and obviously beating the Saints. So they're kind of playing very wishy-washy ball for me at this point. I don't fully know which way to go. The problem that I have is if I take them to beat them in week 1 on the road, I don't know if I have them sweep in Atlanta because there is a world that they go 0-2 against Atlanta. So just to help out my prediction, I'm going to say it's a loss only because they're going to win earlier. But mark my words, if they lose week 1, they win this game here. I think it's a split. So go ahead and technically give me Atlanta in this game here. I feel gross saying that. I want to say Bucs, but I just can't.
So I'm actually kind of right there with you, Riggs. I don't know if they do sweep Atlanta. I do think there is a split for them in this season. I think this is going to be a different Michael Penix Jr. than you see week 1. I think he'll be more comfortable. Obviously, at this point, he's got, 15, 16 NFL games under his belt. The offense for Atlanta should, on paper, be able to compete with the offense for Tampa Bay. I think they did make some improvements on that defense as well for Atlanta. And this might be a little bit of a spoiler alert, but looking at my predictions for the rest of the season, if I were to give them a win here, That's 6 straight wins to end the season, in my opinion, for Tampa Bay, and I just don't know if they're that good to win 6 straight to end the season. I mentioned earlier, Todd Bowles teams always give up one where you're like, the hell are we doing? That should have been a win. What are we doing here? I think this is going to be one of those situations where, yeah, they should probably beat Atlanta, but they'll underperform at some point.
There you go, guys. Go ahead and make a decision there. That's a really tough game to call. I'm honestly excited. I'm not usually excited to see the Falcons in primetime when it's like, Kirk Cousins or something like that. But this should be a fun one. So make sure to tap into that one. Then you move on through here. Unless you guys are going to majorly object here, I'm okay if we zoom through this one as well. Week 16, Sunday, December 21st, at the Carolina Panthers. Bryson, I'm going to steal the words out of your mouth. This game is going to be closer than it should be, and it's going to be scary, but the Buccaneers are going to win. Are we all in agreement on that one?
Yes.
Yeah, you said exactly what I thought was going to happen. I think it's going to be
dog.
A one-score game when everyone's like, why is this a one-score game right now?
100%. It's going to be like Tampa wins by 6. Carolina has the ball, chance to win it. Everyone's sitting there sweating the parlay. And then, it gets swatted down and we're all like, thank you, Jesus. Okay. On to week 17. So here we go. On to week 17, Sunday, December 28th at the Miami Dolphins. Everyone's got to be excited that you get to play in Miami December 28th. So Florida versus Florida. Ella, I know you're getting ready to go to Florida. So help me out here. Which Florida team takes this one down?
I think the Bucs have the win for this game. I mean, I think they have a significant edge in the passing game over the Dolphins. Even though the Dolphins present a very formidable pass rush, especially strapping from the edges, but protecting Mayfield and winning the game of possession battle will be very crucial in this game. The Dolphins have built a very strong running game, and they have a mix in tempo passing, but I think Tampa's defense for sure has to stay disciplined during this game and contain both ground and air time. And they for sure need to prioritize third down stops, red zone efficiency, turnover creation, and both of these teams, like you said, they're both Florida teams, so they're used to this hot climate, especially at a game at 1 p.m, which is horrible. But I think the win for the Buccaneers for this game for sure.
Ella, I do have to ask you, I don't know how up to date you are with Tua over the last multiple years and all his head injuries and everything going on with him, but I got to ask you, at this point in the year, week 17, do you believe, and guys, once again, this is just us predicting, do you think Tua is still healthy and playing at this point in the season?
Probably not.
Right? And that's my fear here is like week 10, I think this game becomes a lot more interesting, but I'm going to join you here, and I'm going to go with the Bucs to get this one done. It doesn't really count as a road game. There's going to be more Bucs fans than Dolphins fans. I don't know if the Dolphins have fans, so I'm going to go with the Bucs here to get this one done. I'm not going to say too much here, but I think we got a Bucs team and Baker Mayfield. Had a couple tough losses here, second half of the season, got some points to prove, got to get a couple wins here if they want to win the division. I just think this is a Bucs have to win this game, and I think the wheels are falling off in Miami. I think the coaching's in trouble. I think Tyreek Hill, he should be in prison by week 17. So I'm just going to go Buccaneers here. That's all I got for you, Bryson.
Yeah, so I'm not going to – I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning as well, so I'm not going to touch too much on what you guys have already mentioned. I think the Dolphins, though, have a sneaky chance to be one of the worst teams in football. Like, I think the Saints, who we've talked about a couple of times already, I think the Saints will be the worst team in football. I think the Dolphins are going to be right there with them. And I have maybe not so much a hot take, but here's my prediction for the Dolphins at this point in the year. Tua is healthy, but not playing because I think they're not wanting to win games. Tyreek Hill, not a Dolphin anymore. I think he gets traded. I think Jalen Waddle might get traded. And I think McDaniel, their head coach, is fired. Like, I think that's going to be a very different Miami Dolphins team week 17 than it was week 1. And like you said, Riggs, I think the wheels have completely fallen off the Miami Dolphins, and they're not even attempting to win this football game.
And so we're kind of all in agreement that it's just the wrong time of year for the Miami Dolphins. The ship has sailed. They are out there somewhere heading to the Bahamas. They're not worried about playing football. So we're going to go ahead and rock with Tampa Bay to get this one done in week 17. And one more for you folks before we give you our final predictions for our records. We got week number 18. As always, you guys see the TBD. You can go ahead and add 7 days to December 28th and probably assume that you are correct, but it's not locked in yet. Flex game 2026, early January. Carolina Panthers again. I'm going to zoom it, guys. It's Carolina losing in this game. So go ahead and give me Tampa Bay. Even though, is there a world that, Baker Mayfield's sitting and everyone's sitting out and they've already made the playoffs and whatever? Sure. But based on my record prediction, I think this is a win. One other thing happens, and I think they get a home game in the postseason. So I'm going to go with a win here for Tampa Bay. But we'll see. Bryson?
So I'm going to go with a home win for Tampa Bay as well. But this is an interesting one because, like you mentioned, you never know if the Panthers or if the Bucs are going to be playing any of their starters in this one. I think one starter I could almost say is a lock to play, just depending on how his season's going. Mike Evans, just because I think they're going to try and, force his way to 1,000 yards again like they did last year. But other than that, there's a real chance no Bucs players are starting for this one, which makes this way more difficult to predict. I think, like you, they will be playing their starters because I have them in contention for not only a home playoff game, but maybe up there with the number 1 seed in the NFC. And this win would be a chance to clinch that for them. So I think this becomes a very important game for Tampa Bay.
Ella?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you guys just said. I think that, there's not much to add, but I think the Panthers, they have improved under some coaching, which can turn their early struggles of the season from very much better from last season, where their weaknesses were just very exploited into multiple of their games that they played. But yeah, I think the Bucs have the win for this, and that's all I'll say.
I'm stuck here. I'm scanning through this schedule as you guys are talking, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, I made some interesting takes on this schedule prediction. So I don't know how you guys are feeling, but I will go ahead and go first here. The reason that I have them win to end the season is because I think they have to win every game to end the season. I have them at 10-7 when all is said and done here. I looked back on it. I'm like, you know what? Is there a couple spots? But it's like, they could beat Arizona, but they could lose this game. So I was like, you know what? I'm happy with my 10-7. Bryson, what'd you end up coming out with?
I have them at 12-5, and honestly, it was almost 13-4. That Atlanta loss, like I mentioned, I really kind of only gave them a loss there, largely because I do think Penix Jr. in this offense will be better by week 15 than they were in week 1. But I didn't want to give them 6 wins in a row to end the season. But I could see them winning that game too and going 13-4. I think this is a legitimate contender for the number 1 seed in the NFC this year.
Well, I was just going to ask you, in my opinion, I look back on it, is 13-4 good enough to win the NFC?
It depends on the Eagles. I think that's the one team they're going to be really competing with for that one. I think the other divisions, like we did, like we've talked about with the Lions, that division's going to be really tough. Like, I don't know if any team in that division is going to win more than 11 games just because they'll all be stealing wins off each other. The West could be a very similar way.
Yeah.
San Francisco and LA could be stealing wins off each other. Seattle could steal a couple wins there. So I think there's one of those divisions where Tampa Bay is so much better than New Orleans and Carolina that they just feed off of division wins enough to put them in that position. So I think the only team that they're going to be competing with is the Eagles, and we haven't done them yet, so I won't say for sure right now, but they're going to be in contention.
Ella, you are the decider. 10 wins for me, damn near 13 wins for Mr. Owens, but a solid 12-5. What are you going with?
I also have a 12-5 for this, for the Bucs, but like Bryson said, I think that they have a bunch of difficult teams to play throughout the season, as well as very easy wins. So I think it's going to be a very interesting season for the Buccaneers. I think that they can either go into the first game with Atlanta like very strong and come off right off the bat with a win, or they can go into the season losing for the third time to this team, first loss of the season, and just that could honestly just ruin their entire like mood and motivation for this season. So we'll see.
I just went and checked you guys for the win totals. And by the way, we actually ask our team, and we don't either look at the win total before the shows. That's why we don't mention it before we start the show. We don't want to do it trying to based on getting to a certain number. So I just checked it for the first time. And funny enough, the over-under is 9.5, and the over is plus 105 for the over 10 plus wins. So I'm now in a predicament because I don't know. I don't like this being the guy with 10 wins barely, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the over 9.5 plus money on the over is crazy. These two are cruising to an over on that one. So I will say so far on all the shows we did, the three teams that we've had pretty clear picks on, we were over very heavy on the 49ers. We are now over on the Buccaneers, and we were incredibly under on the LA Chargers. So those are three bets right now. If you guys are looking to put in some futures bets, you can check out. Also, once again, our YouTube channel at the Sports Forum. Click that subscribe button. Go check out all the other shows and enjoy a lot more coming soon. Sportsforummedia.com. Our writers do a phenomenal job. Go check it out. Got baseball articles up for you right now. A lot of football. Got some UFC coming. UFC 318 is now around the corner, so it should be a lot of fun. But until next time, I'm going to ask you guys very briefly, is there any last words for Tampa Bay before we get to the season that you want to say right now?
Yeah, I do think it's interesting with mine in particular that of my 5 losses I have for them, 3 of them are against like the real only true competition for them this season, like the top of the top teams. Like I have them losing to the Eagles, the Bills, and the Rams. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if teams take them seriously as a 12-win team when the best competition they faced, they lost. I think it's going to be an interesting storyline to follow with this team based on my record prediction.
Once again, the Sports Forum at Sports Forum CO. This has been What's Your Take, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2025 edition. We'll see you guys in the next one.